The way forward is ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਬਹੁਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਨਿਊਯਾਰਕ ਹੰਟਿੰਗਟਨ ਟਾਊਨ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਜੈਨ ਹੀਬਰਟ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। Jen, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Jen, we had you on this show 2 years back. You, ran a very efficient campaign, I guess, for the same office, and our viewers got to know you. Everyone knows you very well in the town of Huntington. They have long known your service. You have been an educator all your life. You have been a trustee and president of Huntington Education District for 9 years, I believe.
That's
But
right.
I would like you to tell our viewers more about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to help your viewers get to know me better. So you're right, I've been in education my whole life. I taught public school kindergarten when I lived in Massachusetts. My husband is from Maine originally, and so we met at school in the Boston area, Tufts University, and then we both worked there for a while. But when we decided to start a family, we wanted to be closer to family, and I grew up on Long Island in Nassau County. So we moved here, and in moving here, we actually moved to Huntington specifically for two reasons. We were looking for a really like the most New England town we could find on Long Island, given how much we love New England and that my husband is from Maine. And we were looking for a place that had diversity because I had grown up in a very white, very homogenous community, and that was not what I was interested in for my own children. So we moved to Huntington, and we've never looked back. It's been the perfect place for us to live, and I can't even begin to tell you how much I love this community. But I guess I could say that I've showed it by volunteering my time, as you said, for 9 years to work for my community as a Board of Education member and ultimately as the president of the Board of Education. And I have also been a part of the community as a nursery school director. I worked at St. John's Nursery School right in Huntington Village. And currently I'm working at Kerber's Farm, actually, as their school program director. So about a year ago, we opened the school, and I've started a program there where we have classes for people of all ages, for preschool age kids, for school age kids, and for adults. In addition to that, we've offered programs for all the school districts in the area, and we've received a lot of great input about our program, and we've also done some other events there, and it's been a really satisfying and fun job because it's still education, but just a very different aspect of it. But in terms of running for the board, you're right. I ran 2 years ago, and although it was a great experience, apparently it wasn't my time. I'm determined to get to the table this time, though, because the truth of the matter is I know I would be great at this job. I I have the right skill set for it. I'm a very good team player. I love sitting across the table from people that disagree with me because I really think that that push and pull of different opinions is what ultimately gets you to the best solutions. And then besides that, I have concerns over our town board being all one party. And so if the two other candidates, the Republican candidates, win this particular election, we'll have a 5-0 town board. And I really believe in balance, and I believe in that push and pull to really get the best results. And so I think that this is a really important local election, and I hope that people are paying attention.
No, definitely, Jen. We always believe that the local elections are the most important elections because they affect your life directly and immediately. Jen, you said when you moved into this town, there was a particular character of the town, which attracted you, and
Yes.
that holds true for a lot of families who have moved into these towns or who have, continued to stay in these towns. And what we are seeing right now is a huge change, a huge threat to the character of the town. If you might be able to, connect. I am talking about these zoning variances that we are seeing in the town of Huntington,
Yeah.
which is a big election issue. We know when we have you as a candidate, we have integrity, we have accessibility. what we need to know is your stance on these divisive issues. I want to understand from you, where do you stand on this R40 zoning variance that we are seeing across Parkshore and these areas?
I'm so glad you asked me about this. And of course, I expect this question to come up at every the meet and greet or meet the candidate event that I go to, because quite frankly, there is not an area of this town where I haven't been walking and knocking on doors that this hasn't been the number one concern of all of our residents, no matter which part of the township you live in. So let me say loud and clear that I am against all the zoning changes and the changes in our codes, because first of all, I believe that they were put on the books for a reason. I think that zoning laws were put onto our books because this is the way we felt that the community would best be developed and planned. And I think when you just go ahead and change them, at will, first of all, I think you're going against what the community really wants. But also, I think you're taxing our infrastructure in a way that we are not ready for and that wasn't built for. Besides that, I told you, as I said earlier, we moved here because it looked the most like New England of any town that we could find on Long Island that was still close enough to my family in East Williston. So I don't want to see it change like that. I think that it's a beautiful town just the way it is. And I think that I was in Northport the other day for their family night downtown, and it has such a small town, old-fashioned feel to it. And I can tell you, as somebody that grew up in Nassau County, it's not true of every town on Long Island. I mean, Huntington is really unique in the charm and the character and the flavor of the town. Most towns don't have a walking center the way we do in Huntington Village or in Northport Village. There's a particular charm to Huntington that doesn't exist too many places. And the last thing I want to see is for that charm to be developed right out. Besides that, though, I think you set a dangerous precedent when you keep letting people change the zoning laws, because once one person is allowed to change it, the next person that comes along just has to point to them and say, but they were allowed to change it. And the next thing you know, you're convincing them that they should be allowed to change it as well. And quite frankly, most of the zoning laws that have been changed under this guise of affordable housing. Now, I do think we need more diverse housing in Huntington, and I'll tell you the way that I think it could go. But the fact that all these places are being put up under the guise of affordable housing is such a red herring. None of them that go in are affordable to almost anybody. So the only people that are benefiting from these big developments going in are the developers. They buy these properties knowing that they're zoned a certain way, knowing that they're zoned for single family houses on this size piece of property. The next thing you know, they want to put up 130 townhouse units, and they expect to get that zoning change. And when you approach them, and I know this because I went to the meetings for the Park Shore property, what you hear is, well, we went to them and said, look, we'd be okay if you were going to be putting up this many, independent houses. And their answer is, oh, but that's not what we want to do. We're not interested in that. Well, why did you buy the property with the zoning laws on it if you weren't interested in putting up the houses that were legitimately allowed on that property? It's because they planned and feel that this current town board is going to say yes to the zoning change and allow them to put up however many townhouse units all the way to the very borders of that property without any fight. And I plan on giving everybody a fight. I am not going to rubber stamp these plans. And although my mom taught me never to say never, I would say that I will almost never approve a zoning change because I really don't believe in it.
Yes, Jen, I believe you speak for most of the residents of the town, but how do we square it off when changes? There have been increases in population. There are issues of development. They argue that the taxes can be brought down if we allow these developments. What do you say to that?
I say that they're going for the solution that's the lowest hanging fruit. That's what I would say. Those are challenges to our community. Are you telling me that the only way to solve those problems is to keep sticking up as many houses as possible in places where the residents don't want them? I disagree. I think, truthfully, and I've been saying this for 2 years, and I really hope to be heard this time, We have empty commercial storefronts all over the township. You drive up and down Jericho Turnpike. That's all you have to do. Well, we don't have mom and pop shops coming back to Jericho Turnpike. Largely, those businesses have unfortunately been completely decimated by companies like Amazon. So what we need to do is, instead of leaving those buildings open and unoccupied and off the tax rolls, and then turning to our only green spaces and deciding to put up housing there, why not reimagine all those commercial spaces, or as many as we can, as apartments and places for people to live? And that's where I think we could hit that diverse housing stock that we need, so that people, quite frankly, like my three sons, I have two sons, they are 25 and 23 that are both post-college. I have a third son who's 19 and just finished his freshman year of college. Those, I would love for them to stay on Long Island. And frankly, they're going to be well employed and gainfully employed. In fact, my oldest son is still, in school getting a master's degree in the library sciences. So he hopes to work in a school somewhere. My middle son already has a great job in finance. He still can't afford to live close by here, because there is literally nothing that won't take every penny he earns to be able to live in the area. And so I do think, instead of providing people with basement apartments or illegal housing, why not try to make some attractive, safe, affordable housing in some of these empty buildings? And it would be a win-win.
Jen, we definitely need some innovative ideas. We will talk more about that after a short break. ਤੁਸੀਂ
Sounds
ਦੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ
great.
The Way Forward. The Way Forward ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਹੰਟਿੰਗਟਨ ਟਾਊਨ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਜੈਨ ਹੀਬਰਟ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। Jen, you are welcome again after the break. Jen, we always hear candidates, particularly on the island, talking about the importance of water, the environment. It's because that's a popular issue. We all understand the importance. But I believe in recent times, we have seen definite attacks on our environment, on our water protection. And what you said in the beginning, we definitely need a balance on the town board to raise those tough questions which are not being raised at the moment. Can you tell us the state of water protection in our town at the moment?
Yes, I can. And it's not good. I don't have good news. I think all you have to do is read the papers and see how often our beaches get closed to know that our water quality is not good right now. And unfortunately, our Suffolk County legislators left federal money on the table that could have gone a long way to helping us extend our sewer district and also provide funds to cleaning up our water. So I would say shame on them, first of all, for leaving that on the table when there was ample opportunity for them to, put that up as a referendum for the voters to decide whether they thought clean water is important or not. But they didn't. They voted it down, and my understanding is that they voted it down because they knew that clean water is an important issue to many of the Democratic voters, and they didn't want a large number of Democratic voters turning up at the November elections. So I will say shame on them for that vote. And I would assure your viewers, anybody that's listening, that if and when a vote like that comes to my table, if it means that I'm not going to win the next election, I'm still going to do the right thing and vote for clean water.
Yeah, that's so important to all the residents, particularly in this town. Jen, again, the issue of somebody being able to raise the questions is very, very important. We saw, a backhanded approach to raising taxes on the, an average person in the town when it came to road repairs. Can you throw some light on that issue, please?
Yes, and again, I think it illustrates the way our town board is currently going about solving issues, and that's basically to either go for the easiest approach or to leave it at the feet of the taxpayers. Because obviously, we'd all like to see our roads perfectly paved all the time, fixed, no potholes. it's a lot of money to do that. And so in order to get it done, instead of looking for ways to find money in the budget, and of course that's not easy, that involves time and effort and homework, but instead of looking for other places where maybe we could find this money, including maybe a surplus from the fact that we didn't have any snow and there's got to be sand and salt money left over, they decided that what they thought would be a good idea would be to just let every single taxpayer in Huntington Township pay more to fix the roads. And so again, that kind of solution is not the kind of solutions I'm going to be coming up with. I'm a resourceful person. I know we already pay way too much in taxes for the services we're getting. And again, frankly, we should all be on sewers. So the fact that they let that sewer money go is ridiculous. But just locally, to think that the best way to solve the problem to close that budget shortfall was just to make all the taxpayers cover it is disrespectful and tone deaf, especially in a time when so many people, so many of our neighbors are struggling. And they kind of did the same thing in terms of this bocce court. So this is a issue that affected a much smaller group of people, but I think was still important. They wanted to charge people an exorbitant amount of money to come and enjoy the sport of bocce at one of our, or a couple of our parks where there are bocce courts. You're talking about a very small group of people who are just coming to do something recreationally. And what they did, it would have priced people out of being able to do that. So myself and Don McKay, who's my, running mate, decided to do our homework and find out and speak to the people that were involved, because people were, not everybody knew about it, but if you were somebody that enjoyed bocce, you knew. And so we did go about writing a letter and trying to convince the board to back off of that decision, since it seemed, again, disrespectful and tone deaf. So, I can say again that we are looking to be much more resourceful and creative in our solutions to the problems that our neighbors are facing.
Jen, we appreciate and thank you for that. We don't want our ordinary citizens to be taxed more. I think they're already being taxed very heavily. Jen, what else do you think are the issues in this election?
Again, I think the most important issues that are affecting our neighbors are really the development, because that's, many people are obviously concerned about that. They don't want to see every piece of green property in our town become overdeveloped. I also think that anything that is affecting people at their kitchen table is really important. So if you're worried about covering your bills and suddenly your taxes are being raised to cover expenses that should already be covered in our budget, that's a concern. People are struggling right now. They don't need more, more taxes, obviously. And finally, as I said, I'm concerned that our town board will have no balance, going forward if the other two candidates win. And I don't want to see every project that comes to the table simply get rubber stamped because you have 5 people who all feel exactly the same way about issues. I think that a healthy debate is what our town members are looking for. And frankly, more respect and more open conversation and more accessibility from their town board. And I am absolutely that person. If I tell you I'm going to get back to you, I'm going to get back to you. If I tell you that I'm going to have office hours Monday through Thursday that you can come in and make an appointment and come see me, I mean that. If you invite me to a civic meeting, I'm going to show up. So this is, for many of the candidates, I think, this is just another step in their professional career. Quite frankly, for me, this is a dream job. So I really hope to have the opportunity to work for our community, because I, again, think I have the right skill set for it. And I certainly would be willing to give it my all.
Mm-hmm. Jen, and you have always particularly been involved with youth and children for the education, for the training, for mentorship. Anything particular you have in mind if you get on the town board?
Yeah, I've been speaking, obviously I've been screening with some of the local unions. And one of the things that I would love to champion is their apprenticeship programs, because I really believe, as a school board member, there was always talk of getting kids college ready. But while I was on the board, we really changed our focus and tried to focus on getting kids college and or career ready. because not every kid is meant to go to college, and it's not to the benefit of every kid to go to college. For some of them, to go into the trades is the exact right direction for them, and it makes for such a wonderful, career and profession. And in order to get kids really involved and to learn those skills and trades, those apprenticeship programs are really, really beneficial. So in that way, I would love to help our youth and like I said, champion that program. The other thing I would love to do, and it would be right at the top of my list, ever since I was a Board of Education member in Huntington and representing Huntington Station, our town has been promising those families a youth center. So now you're talking 20 years later, and they still have no youth center. And in that particular part of our township, they could really use it. Those families would really benefit from it, and they really deserve it. So that would be another issue that would be right at the top of my list to get started on as soon as I get myself to that table.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Jen, as we said earlier, you have a proven track record, which shows us that, when we have you on the town council, we have integrity, we have accessibility, and now we know that you have all these innovative ideas. We have run out of time. I want you to put in your own words, telling our viewers, why would you say, are you the best candidate for the position that you're seeking?
I think I'm the best candidate for the position because I think I have all the skills that you need and a proven track record. As you said, I've represented our community before. Now, a smaller part of our community, my school district, but I'm talking 9 years of volunteer work for the community. And all you would have to do is ask any one of those parents, and I don't care which side of the aisle they vote on, ask any one of those parents in my school district who was in the school district when I was representing them, and they will tell you that I did lead with integrity, that I showed up when I said I was going to show up, that I met the challenges of the job, and we had quite a few while I was on the Board of Education, and that I was always accessible to people in the community, no matter who they were. If they had an issue, all they had to do was come and speak to me. I may not have been able to solve every issue, but there was never a time when I wasn't willing to give it a shot. I'm a solution. I really am a problem solver by nature. I'm solution oriented, and I'm not afraid of a challenge. So I really think that those skills alone make me the best qualified candidate. I also happen to bring a diverse sort of an opinion to the table because I'm not an attorney. I'm not a Republican, frankly. And I think, like I said, a female voice, female Democratic voice, I think would be a really good voice on that board.
Jen, thank you so much for taking out the time today. We wish you the very best of luck for your campaign.
Thank you. I can't thank you enough for having me, Harjot. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Asan Jen Hebert, Huntington Town Council ਦੇ candidate, ਤੁਸੀਂ program ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ, ਇਸੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward. The Way Forward ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਹਰਜੋਤ ਸਿੰਘ। ਹੁਣ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਹੰਟਿੰਗਟਨ ਟਾਊਨ ਕਾਉਂਸਲ ਦੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਡੌਨ ਮੈਕੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ। Don, you're very, very welcome to the show.
Thank you very, very much. And I really sincerely appreciate the invitation to join.
Don, we appreciate you taking out the time from the campaign to speak with our viewers. Don, to start with, I will ask you to tell our viewers about yourself. We understand that you have been a reporter for 10 years. You have been working with the government for at least 25 years. But I would like you to tell about yourself, more about yourself.
Sure. I was born and raised in Northport, and I went to Northport. I graduated high school in 1983. After I graduated high school, I went to a small college in West Virginia called Bethany College, where I graduated in 1987 with a degree in communications, with majoring in journalism. After college, I joined a local newspaper on Long Island, where I covered the town of Brookhaven, town of Islip, and primarily the town of Huntington. And then from the weekly newspaper, I went upstate to Saratoga Springs, where I worked for 4 years covering Saratoga County government. So, and then I came back home again, and I worked a few more years, again covering primarily the town of Huntington. So My first career I worked 10 years as a newspaper reporter, covering politicians, elected officials, and trying to keep them as best I could straight and narrow, and holding them accountable for their actions and their votes. And that is a main part of my campaign now, is to keep the town board straight and narrow, hold the board members accountable for what their actions and their votes. In 1998, I joined the town of Huntington as an aide to then Councilman Steve Israel. In 2000, Steve became a congressman, and at that point, I went downstairs and I worked for former supervisor Frank Petrone, where I served with Frank as his spokesman, where I was in charge of the handling the media, writing speeches, organizing events, and so forth. And then after that, a few years later, Emerson Boozer, who was our director of parks, who was a great man, Emerson retired, and I was fortunate to be appointed the director of parks for the town of Huntington, where I served until 2018. And at that point, I changed gears and joined Suffolk County government, where I am now, where I've served since 2018, where I'm the deputy commissioner of parks for Suffolk County, where we oversee roughly 60,000 acres of parkland from Huntington all the way out to Montauk. So it's a great job, and I'm very fortunate. But the reason I'm running for town board is a number of reasons. I've always wanted to run for office. Again, I've covered elected officials for 10 years, and I've worked for them and with them for 25. So I feel that I have a firm understanding of local government, the need to be accessible and accountable to the public. And I feel that I will be a very positive and constructive member of the town board, responsive to the community. If they have concerns, reaching out to them and try to resolve community issues of concern. And this year's election is very critical, because right now the town board is comprised of 4 Republicans and 1 Democrat. And with 2 open seats, there is a potential for a 5-0 Republican majority. And this is not a Republican issue. It's not a Democrat issue. It's just an issue of accountability on the town board. I believe that it's important on any level of government that we have a checks and balances, that we have a different party or different view to ask those tough questions, to keep the other members of the town board on the straight and narrow. And that's why another reason why I'm running. And a third reason I'm running, I'm from Dix Hills. I've lived in Dix Hills for the last 22 years. And right now on the town board, there is nobody from Dix Hills. And this election, I am the only candidate from Dix Hills who is running. So I believe that, despite the fact that the town is represented, we're an at-large system, we don't have councilmatic districts. However, I believe that it's important that we have a longtime resident of Dix Hills with the knowledge of this community on the town board. And that's another reason why I chose to run for the Huntington Town Board.
No one can disagree that there's no one who's seen the functioning of the town closer than you have. From all sides, you have been questioning the incumbents as a reporter. You have worked with all government officials, administration, everything. And you know the character of the town. You have known it very well, both as a resident and being part of the establishment. One of the biggest issues that has come up before the residents of the town are these zoning variations that we see. We are seeing these multi-density housing coming up in various places, at the Park Shore, near Melville, and various other locations. The community is divided on that issue, but they feel very strongly. We would like to know, where do you stand on this issue?
Yeah, right now, and it's not just Dix Hills, it's Melville, it's other parts of the town. In Northport, these communities are developers are coming in, and as we all know, aware that the number of open space in Huntington is limited. So, but developers, two major proposals in Dix Hills that I'm concerned about. Number one being the Park Shore on Deer Park Avenue. Developer wants to abolish the day camp, the program, and build houses, high density houses. I believe it's roughly 90 units of a cluster, a townhome development. And the other one under proposed right now is under consideration by the planning department, being studied, is the former Snyder's Farm on Old Country Road. That is actually worse. That is a 20-acre piece of property. It's zoned R40, which is 1 acre. And the developer has come in and he wants to build 124 units. Let me repeat that. 124 units on a 20-acre piece of property. So he wants to change the zone from R40 to R5, which is 5,000 square feet. I am firmly opposed to Snyder's Farm proposal and number two, the Park Shore. Why? Because it's high density housing. It is out of character with both neighborhoods. Both neighborhoods are predominantly 1 acre, half acre zoning. And both of these requested change of zone applications conflict with the character of those neighborhoods. I don't make it clear. I am not anti-development. I support, development is important for our economy. However, it needs to be sustainable and it needs to be in character with that community. And it's also imperative that the community have a seat at the table, that they need to be involved. And the one thing I'm considering doing, if I'm elected, if I'm fortunate, I would like to amend the town code to require that when developers come in to build these housing projects, that they make a requirement that they first meet with the community, the fire departments, the religious institutions, to get their input, get their involvement in these applications before the process starts. So you don't have to wait 4 months until all of a sudden we learn about this application and it's a little too late. So I like to get the people involved in the process much earlier to resolve any potential issues. So I do have concerns that there's another one development in West Hills called Stanhope. It's a horse farm, a very historical horse farm. A developer's come in there, wants to build a number of homes. Again, change of zone, out of character with the neighborhood. So
is there something with the golf course on Northport as well?
Yes, there's a private golf course in Northport called Indian Hills Golf Club. It's a private golf course. I believe that it was just recently approved about a month ago or 2 months ago by the zoning board and planning board. Approved the application. They want to build roughly 80 townhomes in 3 different clusters on the golf course. I firmly believe that the process was flawed from the beginning, that the applicant who owns the golf course, it should have been a change of zone application to the town board, not taken away from the town board, the elected officials who must be held accountable, and given to members of the zoning board and planning board who are appointed by the town board who have no accountability. They just serve at the pleasure. And I believe that should have been a change of zone application. I stand with the Fort Salonga community. And I believe that was just a process that was flawed. I believe that the residents of that community were mistreated. And I do believe, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I've read I do believe that there are, I believe, 2 lawsuits pending, and I firmly believe that the residents may prevail, because I believe that the process from the planning board and so forth, and the zoning board of appeals, the process was flawed.
Yeah, Don, the residents definitely need a voice on this town council. We will talk more about the issues after a short break. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward. The Way Forward is ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਫਿਰ ਤੋਂ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ host Harjot Singh. Don, we are very particular about our environment. We are particular everywhere, but particularly in this town. Our water sources, our sanitary system, we are very concerned. And there's some development which is very concerning. Would you throw a little light on that, please?
Yes. One aspect with the environment, working with the town of Huntington, I was involved with a number of major initiatives to preserve open space and protect our bays and harbors and our drinking water. With the town of Huntington, under the leadership of former Supervisor Frank Petrone, former Councilman Mark Cuthbertson, we sponsored 2 bond acts in the town of Huntington, where voters overwhelmingly approved these 2 bond acts, which enabled us to provide funding to preserve hundreds of acres of open space and do a number of projects. And then right now, in a similar, which is very unfortunate, in my opinion, that the legislature was, and the state legislature approved it to hold a bond act this summer, this fall, in Suffolk County, for Suffolk County voters to slightly increase the sales tax, the county sales tax, by a minimal amount. But that would have generated billions of dollars over 10 years or 20 years to preserve and protect our groundwater, but also importantly to help people get off of septic systems. We need to get rid of sewer systems and cesspools and so forth, because those are one of the major contributing factors to hurting our bays and harbors on the South Shore and the North Shore. So it's imperative, I believe it's imperative that we put that to the voters to give them a chance to decide. And unfortunately, the legislature, which is controlled by, it's a Republican majority, they decided to not hold a vote at the legislature. They refused to, and they hold the majority. So unfortunately, I don't believe there will be a public referendum. I believe that the decision was strictly political, that there was speculation that I guess the Republicans were concerned about holding this bond act. It would possibly, in November, it would draw out more Democratic voters. I simply don't believe that's true, because I believe that Republican voters and Democratic voters both care greatly about the need to protect our environment. So unfortunately, I don't believe this bond act will be going forward on the ballot in November.
Traditionally, people believe that Democrats raise the taxes for, average person. But we have seen in Suffolk County, taxes being raised, whether it's for road repairs or, there's an incident I was following up where you and Jen, led a fight against a raise in fee for bocce ball. Can you tell us what was that about?
Well, that was just a kind of like indicative of another reason why I'm running for town board. The town board months ago passed a resolution to enact a fee to charge people who play bocce in a club. Like the Greens at Half Hollow is a housing development, predominantly it's senior citizens. They have a bocce club there. They play bocce at Half Hollow Park. It's recreational. It gets our seniors outside. It's enjoyment. It's social. It's great. And they were instrumental in establishing that court. And the town board, for whatever reason, I don't understand it. It was just, again, it's one of those reasons why I'm running to put a break on this kind of stuff. They enacted this fee. I raised concern about it. I spoke at the town board meeting, and a fee would have also applied to a bocce court in Mill Dam Park in Huntington Village, where part of the court is utilized by the participants of Special Olympics. So children who playing bocce in Special Olympics would have been charged a fee. To me, that is just absolutely atrocious. The town does not need the money. It was ridiculous. And fortunately, after I spoke at the town board meeting, several weeks later, they decided to rescind the fee and move on. So that was it ended up well, but it should not have been proposed in the first place. But that's just a example of, just again, it's indicative why it's important we have a checks and balances on the town board to ask these tough questions and vet things out before they get voted on.
Don, that's the biggest concern. I think these tough questions are not being asked. There's another issue. We hear that there's a battery company which is coming to the town, creating some battery storage, and we do not have enough information on what's going to happen at that facility. Is that something that concerns you?
Yeah, in fact, I'm hoping that a local newspaper in Northport breaks the story, but a company out of Albany, New York, is proposing to build, and the viewers got to understand it. This is going to be becoming more popular, and they're going to be reading more about it. But it's good technology. I'm not criticizing the technology, but the long and short of it is, it's called a battery storage facility. What it does is it's a lithium battery, a number of them, probably like 65 batteries, big batteries, that they make a facility. What the system does is it takes electricity off of the grid when the demand is low. Then it stores electricity, and then when the demand is higher, like right now at 7 o'clock at night, when people are home from work, the air conditioners go on, the demand peaks, and then the electricity will go back on the grid. Again, the technology is good. It's good for the environment. There's no emissions. However, this proposal that this company put in was in a residential zoned area in Northport, and very close to residential homes. But the biggest mistake, not mistake, but I believe the town made, again, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not trying to, but the town 3 years ago enacted or amended the town code to specifically deal with the siting and construction of these battery storage facilities. And for whatever reason, this recent company went before the zoning board last week, and they didn't discuss the amended code. They just talked about another code, trying to argue that the battery facility is a public utility, but they kind of just totally missed the issue of this other amended code, which prohibits the siting of the battery facility in a residentially zoned property. And the only way I believe that they could legally get this thing would be a change of zone. And that would put this application before the town board, which I believe these applications should go, because town board members, they need to be held accountable for their votes and their actions.
So definitely, with such important issues confronting the community, we definitely would want some diversity on that board. Total domination of one party might not be a very good idea for the town. Don, what other issues do you think confront the community, and what other issues are you going to raise or confront in this address in this election?
I mean, one of the major issues, I've worked predominantly my entire career, 25 years as a public servant, and I believe that what's most important to town board members to be accessible and to be responsive. That when a resident from the community calls the town hall, we need to be address their concerns, go to their, not just sit in town hall, but go to the community, talk to folks, meet in their, in their house if need be. And that's what I've done for 25 years. When I worked for the supervisor, former Patron, I would work to resolve these issues. And when I was director of parks, I would do the same thing, that I'd meet with these groups and we resolve issues and so forth. And that's really a major part of my campaign, is to be responsive, respectful, and work with the community to resolve issues in a compromise fashion. And that's really another focus of my campaign.
Don, you have been so closely involved. I will take this opportunity to ask you, there has been a talk for a soccer field for Dix Hills for a very long time. Do you know what's happening with that issue?
Again, yeah, that's knocking on doors. I recently spoke to a gentleman who was involved with the Dix Hills Soccer Club. And when I was at town hall, I was involved with the planning of building a soccer field over on Burrs Lane in Dix Hills. And the town several years ago spent $1.5 million to purchase this 5-acre piece of property that was known as a former herb farm on Burrs. The town purchased it, which is the right thing to do, I believe. And then they spent another $500,000 to improve the property. They built a restroom, a playground for the children. They put in a parking lot, and then they built soccer fields. And unfortunately, again, I don't know who, but clearly someone from the town dropped the ball, no pun intended, that the soccer fields now, apparently for the last well over a year, have been closed and cannot be utilized by the children of the Dix Hills Soccer Club. The reason being that apparently the irrigation system was put in incorrectly, and it's a liability apparently. But the bottom line is that we need to do a better job. This is absolutely ridiculous that this, $1.5 million or $2 million complex is basically not being utilized. And there is a dire need for soccer fields. And if I'm elected, I will do whatever I can to get these fields up to spec, get them improved. And we're not talking a lot of money. We're talking a little bit of money, but I believe that the town, we have funds available to enhance these fields, to bring them up to play standards, to help out our residents of Dix Hills and the Dix Hills Soccer Club. Again, it's just another example of why we need to have a voice of reason and a voice of, checks and balances to ask these tough questions and push these things through. It's been over a year, and no one, to my knowledge, has asked any questions about this or done anything.
Yeah, Don, that's why we need you to ask these tough questions. Don, we have run out of time. I would ask you to tell us in your own words, why do you think you're the best candidate for this position you're seeking?
Again, I'd like to thank you for inviting me on. I sincerely appreciate it. I think the main reason is that I've worked in government. I was a former reporter. I have a comprehensive knowledge of how government operates. I know budgets. I know how they work. I know how to read a budget. But the main thing, again, is being responsive to the community. I live in Dix Hills. If I'm elected, I will be the only one from Dix Hills. This is where I lived for the last 20 years, 25, 22 years. So that's I just want to get on the town board to help people like I've done for the last 25 years as an elected official and do what I can. I'm not a lawyer, as I previously said. I'm not looking to, obviously I can't, become a judge as other members of the town board run. They try to get on the town board. My two opponents are both lawyers. They try to move up, become judges, and whatever. I'm not. This is what I want to do. I want to get on the town board. I want to help people in Dix Hills, but also all of Huntington as the best of my ability.
Don, we wish you all the very best for your campaign. Thank you so much for taking on the time today.
I thank you again. I appreciate it.
Thank you. AC ਸਾਡਾ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਸ਼ੋਅ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਵੇਖਦੇ ਰਹੋ The Way Forward.